My problem is that secular Israelis define Judaism as orthodox so that they could reject it.
Most of this country didn't turn to them to say, hey, why didn't you fight bravely until your last drop of blood? Most of this country said, thank God you're alive because we have lost so much.
First, get out of Efrat. Then get out of Jerusalem. Then get out of Tel Aviv.
There is a way to get to a peace agreement and to a real peace between the sides.
Stop hiding our interest. Like, this is my Jewish interest. This is my Palestinian national interest. We have a common interest that no one talked about.
If you come to me and say there's going to be a two-state solution and Jerusalem's going to belong to the Jewish people, I'm going to say, what are you smoking?
In 50 years, there's no doubt in my mind, there will be a bat mitzvah at the wall. Israel will be leading the Jewish world in innovation in Jewish. We have to do it, otherwise we will perish.
The most important thing at the end of the day is that you know one simple thing. I love Israel. I love Israel. I love this country.
I'm Mark Golub, Voices of Israel. There are so many people I want you to meet, and this is one of them, Eli Knoller. You know, I said to you before, Eli, in some way you are the equivalent in America of a chief of staff, in this instance, for the deputy speaker of the Israeli Knesset, MOSHE FEIGLIN. And I don't know if that's the formal title that is given to you. What's the formal title given to you?
I'm his right-man man.
Okay.
That's what's on my business card.
Very, very nice. Incidentally, you didn't start a life in politics.
Not at all.
What were you doing?
My background is in sales and marketing, and I was a sales manager for a high-tech company here in Israel when Mr. MOSHE FEIGLIN told me that he wants me on his right-hand side.
Very good. Where are you from?
I'm originally from the Bronx.
Where in the Bronx?
Born and bred in Riverdale, New York.
We have a Riverdale, New York person here. Are you affiliated with the synagogue in Riverdale?
Yes, I'm affiliated with both the Hebrew Institute of Riverdale,
Avi Weiss,
Rabbi Avi Weiss, as well as the Riverdale Jewish Center.
Okay. Many, many, many HIR people watch Shalom TV, so you're being seen back home. Ever go to SAR?
No, I did not learn at SAR. I visited many times there, but I learned in Washington Heights at the Soloveitchik School.
Lovely. What brought you to Israel?
24 years ago, I met my dear wife Marion during our joint activities in the Bnei Akiva youth movement, and we got together, fell in love, and decided that as much as we loved growing up in America, our future is in Israel. And 24 years ago, together with one little boy, we moved here, and 4 children later, we're still here and very, very happy.
Mazal Tov. How old are your children?
My oldest is now 25 years old, and my baby is 11.
That's wonderful. What is your 25-year-old doing?
He just finished being a commander in the Golani unit in the Israeli army.
That's very prestigious.
Yes.
Mazal Tov.
He finished 3.5 years doing that. He spent 6 months touring around the west coast of America and South America, and now he's preparing to enter university in the fall.
Mazal, what's his name?
His name is Itai.
Okay, so Itai, good for you. I wanted to talk to you, first of all, about the community we're in, Karnei Shomron. And very often Americans, as you know, have an image of what settlements are. And very often American Jews imagine, and Americans in general, imagine, you know, trailer parks. They don't imagine really entire communities, beautiful suburbs that you would see. You know, I always use the analogy that if you travel parts of New Jersey, you travel parts of New England, you see small, lovely communities, and very often you drive through Israeli settlements, and they are simply the same thing. They are small towns, small cities, and Karnei Shomron is a beautiful, beautiful place. Tell us how Karnei Shomron started. What's the origin of this settlement community?
Well, 36 years ago, Ariel Sharon was the housing minister of the Likud government, and they were looking really for housing for young couples, for new olim, and he approached a large community of Americans who at the time were living both in America as well as here in Israel, and said, how would you guys like to build a new community in Israel?
And there were no people here.
There were no people here. It was totally barren land, totally barren land. It got together a large group of about 100 American families, a large group of about 150 Israeli families, mostly from poor neighborhoods who were having problems and couldn't purchase a home of their own, and said, this is our historic homeland. Here will be a brand new community by the name of Karnei Shomron. And today we're a beautiful community mixed of both religious as well as non-religious, Ashkenazic and Sephardic Jews, living together in harmony of 6,500 people and growing.
You told us also it is a very heavily American Anglo population here, correct?
That's correct. That's correct. We have about 250 Anglo-Saxon families who were the pioneers who lived here from the very beginning, first in tents, and then in caravan trailers with no electricity and no heating. And they were the pioneers and literally built a brand new community in Israel.
When did you come to Karnei Shomron?
I came to Karnei Shomron 23 years ago.
Marvelous. All right, I want you to look out here, Steve. We're going to look again out at what was Manasseh and Ephraim. But you also told us that there is a fence. So, and we see the fence here. Tell us about the construction of that fence. When did it happen? When was it built? And why?
For many, many years, there was no fence around this community at all. We lived in very good harmony with Arab neighbors. We went to do shopping in their villages. They came here and worked. And we went to their family occasions, and they came to our family happy occasions as well. Unfortunately, with the onset of the Oslo Accords, things started to change. And our commercial center, our mall that was built here in the Karnei Shomron, which was open to both Arabs as well as Jews, unfortunately was infiltrated by a suicide bomber on a Saturday night. All the teenagers obviously were sitting in the pizza shop having a pizza, as in any other mall, any place in the world. And the suicide bomber walked right into the mall under the guise of a shopper and blew himself up, killing 3 15-year-olds. And injuring many, many others. At that point, there was unfortunately a realization that we could no longer live with no fence policy, and a fence was erected all around the perimeter of the yeshuv, but with the insistence of the residents that gates be left so that our Arab neighbors who do own olive trees within the confines of our border, of our yeshuv, of our community, be allowed to come in and work the land, work their trees. So as you see over here as part of the fence, there is a gate that is there, and agricultural workers are allowed in with the security permission in order so that they should not be disconnected from their property and from their land, but should be able to work as well, and yet at the same time provide security to the Jewish residents here.
And are there any restrictions on when a Palestinian can come through that fence or not?
Palestinians today have to register with the security department of our community. And once they show that this is rightfully their olive trees or fields, then they're allowed with security escort to come in a coordinated fashion and work the land.
So the fence we see here, which has a gate, is that gate liberally used?
Yes, yes it is.
And how often would we see Arabs coming through that gate to work their olive trees?
During the season when olives are being picked, that gate is used on a daily basis.
Okay. You said that when Karnei Shomron was built, this basically was empty land. Now you're telling us, though, that there were olive trees owned and worked by Arab Palestinians even before Karnei Shomron was built. Explain to me what seems to be sort of a contradiction.
Okay, the land that the community is built on is government land. Okay, that was barren land. However, there were patches of privately owned land by Arabs, local Arabs, who privately owned patches of land in the area, and if they fell out within the boundaries of the new community, the master plan, the urban plan that was made, at the assistance of the Jewish residents, the Arabs are allowed to continue working that land.
But they lost that land.
No, they still own patches. They still own patches of land within the boundaries of the community.
By any chance, can I see that from here?
Here's the neighborhood basketball court right here. Beyond the basketball court, for example, is an orchard of trees, which is land that's owned by local Arabs. And they are allowed to come into the community with full coordination and work the land during the course of the day and leave at the end of the workday.
Do the Arabs who owned those orchards, those olive trees, do they feel you took their land?
Not at all. Not at all. That's privately owned Arab land, and according to law, no one is allowed to take it, and no one is allowed to confiscate it, and no one's allowed to build on it. Absolutely not.
So the only thing that has happened is private land owned by Arabs, which is now in Karnei Shomron, and they still own it. There is a restriction on their access, which they can overcome through this gate. And as long as they show that they really do have a reason to come here, they can do that, and they do it all the time, and you do not have security issues with them.
Not at all. Not at all. The security department is responsible for coordinating and for checking the backgrounds of these laborers to make sure that they're coming in indeed for their own agricultural needs. Last year there was an incident of one that was found during his lunch break walking around the neighborhood and taking pictures of various houses. And of course, it turned out that he had infiltrated in and was going to submit the pictures to some terrorist organization. And that's the type of existence that we obviously demand to continue, to have full protection of the Jewish residents here, yet not infringing on the basic human rights of our Arab neighbors who we would like to continue having good relations with.
So you've described this security fence. How safe do you feel now here? And does this security fence solve all the issues? Or do you still worry for your kids when they go, you know, they leave the house and they go to a pizza shop in the middle of town?
That's a very good question, Mark, because I know my relatives that live in America, they have young children. They don't let them go to the mall by themselves. They certainly don't let them go out, you know, on the town without calling them and finding out how they're going to get home by themselves. We've encouraged our kids to understand that this is our backyard. And this is our home. My teenage daughters go hiking here in the mountains by themselves all the time with their friends. They feel this is their backyard. My young children walk by themselves on the streets. They come home late at night during vacation, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. I sleep very well because they understand and I understand that this is our house. This is our home. And the same way that you walk around your house in your stocking feet, without anyone worried about it. If someone pops in on you, you say, this is my house. This is what I want to do. I want to walk around barefoot in my house.
But my children never had friends blowing up in a pizza shop.
That's correct. And of course, that was a challenging time to explain to...
And I want to know whether this fence is good enough to keep that from happening again.
Not at all. Not at all. This fence can be dug under the same way that the fences that were erected in Gaza are being dug under and tunneled under. This fence can be climbed over. We don't think anything about it.
Is it electrified?
This part of it is not. There are other parts that are.
If somebody were to touch the fence, does a signal go off?
In certain parts of the area, yes.
So then is this fence more cosmetic than anything else?
I think it's more psychological. It was erected after the suicide bombing in our mall, and it was a way to calm people down. But in effect, people can go over it, can go under it, and it's really not a real deterrent.
Has there been an incident since then?
No, there has not been an incident.
Why do you think that is?
Well, there has been an incident within the community. I think the saying, good fences make good neighbors, is part of it.
Do you live in fear?
Absolutely not.
Do your children live in fear?
Not at all.
Do you live in fear for your children?
No, not at all. I'm very comfortable with my children living in Israel. I would be very, very, very apprehensive of my teenage daughter going out into town in any of the large cities in the United States and coming out back late at night via public transportation.
Okay. Now, what is over here you wanted to show us?
Okay, what we see over here, Mark, is the new section of Karnei Shomron. It's a private neighborhood of private family houses built about 11, 12 years ago, all built on government land, fully purchased from the Israeli government. And behind us, in front of the house, is actually the retaining wall of these houses. And the reason I'm showing you this is because these families could have easily moved that wall another 10, 15 meters closer to us, to the barren land that we see here. However, this land that you see barren here is private Arab land. It's not being worked agriculturally. There is no olive trees on it. But as you see, from the retaining wall all the way over to the left towards the fence is private Arab land.
Really?
Yes, absolutely. And the law is strictly enforced that retaining wall must be exactly on the property line, and every family here must abide exactly to those property lines without stepping 1 inch over into private Arab land.
You know, it's both interesting and raises questions. On the one hand, it indicates the extent to which the Jewish community here and the state of Israel is in fact trying to protect Arab rights to Arab land. Incidentally, it's okay. You can see here my wife and Naomi are in the picture. They're obviously here seeing this interview. Are you having a good time, Ruth? Okay, Ruth's having a good time. Naomi, having a good time? Okay. But, Eli, on the one hand, it indicates the extent to which it's important to respect the Arab rights to this land.
Absolutely.
At the same time, somebody could say, but what's the real practical point of this? We can't see, it doesn't look to me to be realistic for now. And Steve, let's see the land again that we're talking about here. It's the area in between the fence to our left and the new homes that have been built to the right and below the retaining wall. Eli's point is this is Arab land. It is not. It is sacred. It is not touched. But we don't imagine it being used by Arabs. It is almost a formality without a purpose.
Look, if the proper owners of this land come and they show their proper deeds to the property, they have every right to come and plant trees here. They have every right to come and plant orchards here.
And what about build a home?
Building a home, they would have to get a building permit. Okay, but again, I want you to understand, Mark, that Arab land that fell out in the middle of the neighborhood. Okay, the government fully reimbursed and compensated the rightful Arab owners for that land, and it was not confiscated in any way whatsoever. They got full compensation for a small parcel of land that happened to be in the middle of the neighborhood, and it just wasn't feasible to plant trees there, obviously.
So in some way, you're saying that there is an attempt within the overall structure to respect the integrity of Arab rights, even on what's called the West Bank.
Absolutely, absolutely. The residents of Judea and Samaria would very much like to live side by side with our Arab neighbors.
I want you to say that again. What would you like to do?
We would like to live in peace, side by side with our Arab neighbors. We would like to have the day when we share a mall together. They come shopping in our malls. We go shopping in their malls. Unfortunately, it has been a one-way street. We have built malls, invited them to come shopping, and they have sent suicide bombers into our pizza shops. When we drive on the roads, and they drive on the roads, only the Israeli cars are the ones that are pelted with rocks on a daily basis. That's not what's called coexistence. That's called looking for a partner for peace.
The people who argue for the two-state solution do say that if there is an interlocutor on the other side, if there was a real honest attempt by Palestinians to live in peace with the Israeli people, that then there would be some kind of accommodation. And one of the questions that's asked is what happens to the communities which go by this crazy name, settlements. Again, how many thousand people live here?
There's 6,500 people.
6,500 people here. The question becomes, what happens to this community? Some people say all of the, quote, settlers have to leave. And we have to find some place for them to live inside whatever the new border of the formal state of Israel will be. There are those who argue that if Arabs can live inside Israel, why can't Jews live even on Palestinian sovereign land on the West Bank? And I know that you, and we spoke to Moshe FEIGLIN, he does not believe there should be Palestinian sovereignty on the West Bank. But if there were to be Palestinian sovereignty, there is a question as to whether someone like you and someone like all the Israelis who now live in this community should have the right to remain here, but under Palestinian sovereignty. And the first person to ask about that is someone like you. If philosophically you lose, and philosophically, whether you like it or not, there is a Palestinian state created on what's called the West Bank, and you were given the right to live in Karnei Shomron, but it would be under Palestinian sovereignty, what would your attitude be?
Mark, I think that's a very good question. And I think my attitude would be the same attitude that my wife's family had when they lived in the 1800s in Tzfat. They came from Poland. They settled in Tzfat, the holy city of Tzfat. And they lived here in the 1800s under the rule of the Turkish. They didn't care who was ruling over them. They came to live in Israel. They came to return to Zion, to which they prayed for 3 times a day. And that is the attitude of the people that live throughout Judea and Samaria. We have come to live in Israel. If our Arab neighbors would like to live side by side with us in peace, they're more than welcome. We've extended our arm over and over again. We are just waiting for them to reach out and shake our hand.
I want to make sure I understand. Even if this were sovereign Palestinian territory, if you were allowed to live here in peace, you would accept that?
Absolutely.
Okay. By the way, this is, in my mind, is a very important thing for American Jews to hear, because very often the settler community is characterized, and one of the things they're characterized as saying, no, 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 no. Not only do we want the right to remain if there's a Palestinian state, if there is a two-state solution, but we want there to be enclaves of Jewish sovereignty inside the Palestinian state. And what you're hearing Eli say is something I hear from settlers all the time. And again, I am uncomfortable using the term settlers, but that's what they're called in America. These are Israelis who are living in communities on the West Bank or Judea Shomron, depending on what you want to call it. But my point is, what you've heard Eli say is very important for us, for American Jews, for Americans watching Shalom TV to understand that what Eli is saying is that to him, and we had this discussion already, this is Eretz Yisrael. And it's Eretz Yisrael regardless of whether it's under an Israeli flag or a Palestinian flag. And what Eli is saying is, if this is Eretz Yisrael and a Palestinian state says live here in peace, you would have no trouble doing so.
Absolutely not.
Okay. Do you agree with me, by the way, that that is something misunderstood by many people who discuss this issue?
Absolutely. Absolutely, Mark. I believe most people that discuss the issues really don't understand the facts on the ground, have never taken the time to come here, like you and your crew have, to really understand and to speak to people, but rather see the Israelis that live here in Yehuda v'Shomron, over 350,000 Israelis that live in Yehuda v'Shomron, Judea and Samaria, through the eyes of CNN, and generalize in terms that they understand through the communications, and not really meet them, face to face.
Yes. Well, you represent something that's very, very important. First of all, you're lovely. It was lovely meeting Moshe as well. But Eli, you're a lovely, lovely American Jew who now has made his home in our homeland, Eretz Yisrael, and it's really extraordinary what you've built here, what you've built with your family. 5 children now, right?
5 children.
Okay. And you mentioned that at one point before Oslo, there was real interaction between you and the Arab community, the Palestinian community nearby. Can you point out where in which direction is the nearest Palestinian community, and by any chance can we see it from this yard?
Yeah, the nearest Arab town is right past these houses over the hill. It's about a mile distance from here.
We can't quite see it because of the hill.
Right, correct.
Okay.
If we go up on top of the hill, you get a good view of those houses.
Any other community nearby?
And then the next community is, as the crow flies, straight out this way. It's about 4 miles in between the 2 large mountains that you see there. There's a large university being built there in that community.
An Arab university?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
And at one point, actually, Arabs would come from either one of these communities and be here in Karnei Shomron.
Indeed, on a daily basis, both for shopping and as employees of local businesses and contractors here.
All right, you've explained this beautifully to us. By the way, we're in the backyard of the last home on the block, and that's why we could, sort of see the landscape here. And you've shown us some of the new homes that are being built sort of across the way. But if we were to drive by Karnei Shomron, what are some of the other things we would see?
Well, you drive down the block and you'd see kindergartens and nurseries of children, elementary schools for both religious and non-religious Israeli children. There's a junior high school here. There's a high school here up till 12th grade. There's a Golden Age Center for our senior citizens, a day center for them for their activities. There's a music center. There's a butcher shop, a bakery. It's a bank, a post office. It's a regular community.
It's an entire community here.
An entire community of a very wide range of people, all different types, both religious, both non-religious, Israelis and non-Israelis, new Olim, new immigrants, of all different shapes and sizes. And we live in peace together, in harmony. Even on Shabbat, the roads are open here. Whoever wants to drive is welcome to drive. Whoever wants to use the pool, can use the country club.
This is not an Orthodox community then?
No, not at all. Not at all.
By the way, it sounds delicious, And again, most of us who are in America and who, again, we're influenced like everybody else by the American media, by what you read in the New York Times, what you see on CNN. If you don't watch Shalom TV, no one knows, But the reality is that on a given day, everybody watching now, and all of us who are here, we'd love to come. You should have a barbecue back here, and we'll bring a whole group of people here. And for all I know, they would just take a look at this land and say, oh my goodness, wouldn't I love to live in Karnei Shomron? So Eli's going to take us on a bit of a car tour here so that we see some of the communities and neighborhoods of Karnei Shomron. Also meet some of the people who live here.
Across the way, about a mile from here, are some of our Arab neighbors in the village of Azun, which until about 10 years ago were very friendly. We had very good relations with them, and unfortunately now is one of the major villages where rock throwers and Molotov cocktail throwers come out to the road and throw at Jewish cars. And we have a regular neighborhood, people doing their Friday chores, mowing the lawn, preparing for the Shabbat. More established couples.
And roughly, what would a house cost here?
A house here costs about $350,000, including the land and including the building of the house, depending on the size of the house, of course, and how extravagant you want it to be. We're continuing through a neighborhood here of Knoller Shomron. These are 4-family houses, garden apartments. Mostly young couples with 1 or 2 children live here, and then they graduate to a larger house. And right in front of us, here on the right, is the area which is within the municipal boundaries of the community. And basically, between here and the swimming pool, which is on the right-hand side, so you see there's olive groves here off to the right, and what we see here in between the youth center on our left and the tennis courts on our right is a very large area which is within our municipal boundaries, but is privately owned Arab land, Mark. And this is land which belongs to private Arabs. They have the deeds to the land. It was bought by their family many years ago. And they are indeed entitled to work the land. No one has encroached on the land. No one has confiscated the land. They come throughout the year, tend to the olive groves. During the season where they pick the olives, they come with their entire family, and they pick the olives with many workers as well. They come in and they're escorted by the security team. They're cleared, and no one bothers them, and we live side by side very nicely in that way. Here we're pulling up on one of the attractions of the neighborhood, a young man originally from South Africa who decided that he had enough of the rat race of the high-tech world and decided to go after his heart, and he opened up a boutique bakery, organic bakery based on only health breads. He now makes American bialys, bagels, American apple pie, famous Rambam bread. Recently voted among the top 10 of the boutique bakery list in all of Israel.
All of Israel. Wow. Want to see Rambam's bread?
Absolutely.
Come on, we'll see Rambam's bread.
Oh my God! It's really on television. I don't.
Who is this now?
Martin Jackson.
This is one of the customers here, the patrons at the Saidel Bakery. What's your name?
Martin Jackson. Yes.
How long you been living in Karnei Shomron?
Since its inception, about 30 odd years now. 25 years we've been living here. 25, 26 years. Yeah.
A lovely accent. Where are you from?
Originally from London.
From London?
Yes, a Cockney boy.
And so what?
How you doing?
Well, I'm doing very well. So this is Shalom TV from the United States.
Right. Okay.
You're on television now.
Is this nationwide or
nationwide?
Nationwide.
So I want to know what caused you to make Aliyah from London?
You want the long version or the short version?
Short version. This is a Jew. Okay.
Yes, answer a question with a question,
exactly
right? Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Give me
Why? 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 I ask myself why. Hello. This is for a man like me. I'm carrying the shopping. For God's sakes, listen.
Is your wife here?
No, she's at home. She's got sciatica, thank God. Okay. So, the thing is that years ago we were in the middle of riots in the UK against the coloured people of the area where we lived, and I said to my wife, "This is it. This is crazy." But the truth is, I always wanted to make Aliyah.
Did you?
Yes, I became a Zionist when I was a kid in Cheder, and that was in 1915. And the teacher there actually made the trip to Israel, and I was very fascinated by the stories, and I fell in love with the concept, and thereafter, I became very interested. And on my wedding day, my wife and I got married in London 14 years ago, and on my wedding day, in the Cheder Ichud after the chuppah, I said to my wife, "You should know one thing. The minute you say you want to go and live in Israel, I'll stop whatever I'm doing."
Really?
Yes, and I'm going to live in Israel.
And at one point, did she say it?
Well, yes.
That's wonderful. What did you do for a living when you got here?
I'm an engineer, so I just carried on doing what I do.
That's lovely. That's lovely. Have you been happy?
I would say one thing. Anybody who wants to make Aliyah, just do it. Believe me, Hashem will take care of you. It does happen.
That's lovely. Yeah. Have you been happy in this community?
I've been happy. I wouldn't say I'm happy.
You're a Jew, I understand. What's the right question to ask? What's the right question to ask you? I'll ask it any way you want.
Let me explain to you very quickly, because this is TV, so time is precious, right? How I found my way here had no ideology attached to it. My wife and I were, after we made Aliyah, were casting around where we're going to live. That's to say, at one point it looked like the way the pound was sinking against the US dollar, it looked like we're going to be living in a tent. So one day a friend of ours, a guy called Saidel, wrote a book. Look for it online, Saidel. My friend Sai said to me, "You want to build a house? We're building houses, so come with us." And we drove out of the steaming town, because in those days, only the very wealthy had air conditioners. Everybody lived like, you had a lot of sweatshirts. And we drove and drove up and down, up and down, up and down. But in short, we saw the area, we saw the whole place. There was nothing here.
Nothing?
Nothing. If I tell you now, you take your camera around this place, you cannot imagine. There wasn't a tree here. There wasn't anything here. There was nothing here. It was an open, empty, stone-filled hillside. There were no houses, no remains of anybody. This is not occupied. Was never occupied by anybody. It was never belonged to anybody. And anyway, the roads were laid out, and then across on the horizon, I saw a deer lolloping. That's the British word. Lolloping across the scenery, and I signed on the spot. Then I went to work the next day. And I said to my boss, I signed for a project. It's in somewhere called, and I took out my pocket the slip of paper because I couldn't even remember the name. It's called Karnei Shomron, you see. And I couldn't even say it properly. This Karnei Shomron, like the Americans, Americans are hello, Shalom. They can't say Shalom, it's Shalom. So in the Karnei Shomron, and my boss said to me, "You're crazy. You're insane. Get out of it." And I went home, and I said to my wife, they all think that I'm insane. And my wife said, "That's okay. I know you're insane." And I said, "Well, what are we going to do?" So she said, "Look, we signed. Let's take a chance." I said, "Hashem will look after us. Don't worry." I said, "What could possibly go wrong? Because they're all Americans building this project." There's a very long story. The way the project came, you could do a whole show on the project itself. Bottom line, it's the most wonderful community here.
That's lovely.
There is no community like this community. You'd have to go a very long way for this community, but I would say one thing. I don't want to leave here. And I'm not fanatical. And there's always lately been a lot more talk about, the possibility of having to close Ishuvim. And it would break my heart, not because we're moving, because if there was peace, then that would be a wonderful thing. It really would. If there's a genuine peace that meant something to everybody involved, not some kind of minor political gain from one side or the other, but a genuine peace, I would pack up my house tomorrow, but I would do it with a very heavy heart, because this is a wonderful community. It could never be replaced. And that's Karnei Shomron. So if you want to come to Karnei Shomron, Ginot Shomron, and the SAIDELIS for your holidays, we have no hotels, but I've got space in my backyard. You can pitch your tent. You're very welcome.
That's lovely. By the way, what if you were told you could stay in Karnei Shomron, it would just be under Palestinian sovereignty?
That's a very difficult question. You see, the question of Palestinian is a very moot point. I have a lot of friends. You see, a lot of the people you'll talk to, especially you as a newscaster or whatever it is,
whatever I am,
whatever you are in the news station, they for the most part, these are people like you and I. They're just regular people, and the trouble is that a lot of the fanatical types who are talking, if you actually,
but you talked about a real peace. If it's a real peace, I'm only saying if it's a real peace, and they said, then you'd stay.
I'd stay. And I don't say, I mean, I would like the idea that obviously it's Eretz Israel, and I'm very committed to the concept of Eretz Israel as such. But international law is international law, and what will be decided will be decided. So whether I move or not, I mean, I'm saying now, it's easy to talk, isn't it? But we'll see when the time comes. If it comes, which I doubt, but if it does. But what I the point I'm trying to make is that these guys, they're just guys like you and me. Yes. They're people. And a lot of the fanatical people that you speak to, I'll give you odds on 9 out of 10 of them never spoken to Evelyn. They don't. And what makes it worse is they'll speak to those people who have got an agenda. They won't speak to the people without an agenda. So the people with an agenda, look, you see, this is my land, or they'll say it with an accent. This was my land, my grandfather, his house, you see, and they do it. I'll take you across. You want to go? I'll take you to Lekif across, and they'll come over here and say, you see that house? My grandfather built that house. He built it, and 5 people, and he'll do a whole act for you. But I know, because I can show you the photographs, there were no houses here. But they'll do it. They won't like that. Those are people with an agenda. People without an agenda, sweet people. I've got nothing personal. They're nice people, and I can live with those guys. And they're very respectful. You respect them, they respect you.
You say it beautifully. So what's your wife's name, Martin?
Diane.
And do you have any children?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. How many?
Yes. Well, the lawyer's 3. The dogs. I have 3 kids.
Any grandchildren?
Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem. A lot
How many grandchildren?
7 grandchildren. We're not supposed to count them.
Yeah. Isn't that lovely? Haven't you had a lovely life here?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And they all live here. All my kids live here.
Are you kidding?
No. We're now third.
We're all jealous. We're all
third generation. Nevaeh is a 3rd generation.
That's fabulous. So, by the way, we are meeting Martin. He is getting. This is Friday afternoon, Friday morning afternoon. So it's about Shabbat.
Will be going
no. It's about Shabbat. So you're getting bread for challah for Shabbat?
I said to my wife, she says, your birthday coming up. What would you like? I said, I'd like a divorce. She said, no, I was thinking about something a little cheaper. Put me in front of a camera. I'm anybody's.
What's in the bag?
This is the Saidel's collars.
Are they good?
Oh yeah, you got to go and into.
We're going to get a Saidel challah here at Saidel's. Do you know that this is one of the 10 leading boutique bakeries in all of Israel?
I do indeed. Yes. I'm the official engineer for Saidel's bakeries. I'm the bakery engineer.
It has been a joy meeting you. What luck that we ran into each other.
Yes, I'm delighted.
Yes, and I'm just a guy from Shalom TV. I'm Mark Golub. You got that?
Golub.
Mark Golub. And
sorry about that.
And your last name again is?
Jackson.
Jackson.
Yeah, it should have been Lifshitz, but there's a story there. You want the story?
No, I don't.
You want the long story? It's got to go.
This is Martin Jackson.
Look for me on YouTube. I could be famous.
And it's wonderful to talk to him just before Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you, Mark.
This is your bakery.
This is my bakery.
Okay, what is your name?
My name is Cheryl Saidel.
Cheryl Saidel, and your husband is?
Is Les.
Is Les?
Les.
Les is not here right now.
He
okay.
is delivering challahs all over the country.
Okay. I understand that you are from?
South Africa.
And when your husband Les came here, he wasn't in the bakery business?
No, he was a computer programmer.
Yes.
And he was a victim of the .com explosion. He lost his job, and he's been baking since he's 13 years old. He had a Rav in the yeshiva who took all the boys one day. Instead of teaching them Gemara, he taught them what whole wheat is and how to bake and how to make.
Really?
And since then he's been baking. When we got married, I never had to learn how to make challah or anything because he already knew. So he decided once he lost his job that he would like to do something unique and special, something that he loves doing.
Now, do you both bake?
I help him a little bit with the cookies, but
he's the baker.
He's the baker. Okay. I do all the logistics, but he's definitely the baker.
So what I understand is he does this, first of all, he follows the Jewish laws, he follows Maimonides' prescription, is that correct?
He developed a bread which is only he sells it, it's called the Rambam bread. He delved into all the writings of the Rambam. It's a special bread, it's got medicinal herbs and he crushes vitamins into it. It's incredibly healthy and filling bread, and that the whole bakery is based on this concept. Everything is done by hand. It's based on baking techniques from 200-300 years ago. I'll show you the oven. There's no sophisticated machinery. It's all hands-on, healthy. He grinds his own whole wheat here. We buy organic whole wheat kernels. He grinds them himself.
This is fabulous. Take us inside. We're going to go inside and see the bakery inside the oven. So what do we have here?
We have it's a brick oven. He built this completely himself.
Sorry, he what?
He built this whole thing.
He built the oven himself.
Every single thing you see here by himself. It's heated with gas. There's a special gas burner that goes in. He heats it up with the gas. He takes it out. The bricks retain the heat, and that's what does the baking. It retains the heat for a long, long time. He has to keep topping up the gas all the time, but that's what does the heat.
And how many loaves will he bake at a time?
You could put 60 loaves of bread in.
60?
Yes. And he puts them on trays and he moves them around with a stick and with a paddle he's got over here. And it gives the brick oven gives the food an incredible taste. It's a special taste. It's not like an electric oven. It's a completely unique taste.
Anyway, this is marvelous. What kinds of different breads do you bake?
I want to tell you that we largely cater for an American market, that we are the only bakery in Israel that makes bialis.
You're the only bakery in Israel?
In Israel that makes bialis. But I do export them everywhere in the country. Okay. In other words, on a Friday, the reason my husband is not here is that on a Friday morning we go to Ra'anana, Tel Mond, Netanya, Beit Shemesh, Ramat Beit Shemesh, Jerusalem, Efrat, and Ma'ale Adumim. We go where there are American and Anglo-Saxon clientele. I see. We also make a New York deli rye bread, which is the same. You can't buy a rye bread like this in America. I can tell you that Eli's sister, Eli's sister went over to the States to visit their parents, and his mother asked. Their mother asked for this New York rye that they feel it's better than they can buy there, and I'm sure there's plenty New York rye to buy there. You can't buy rye like this in Israel. It's not the same as the Israeli rye. You're catering for what the Americans grew up with, what the South Africans grew up with. It's a more filling bread. It's a heavier bread. The Israelis are very into airy bread, into baguettes with air that don't really fill you up. The Americans know what good bread is, and that's what we're catering.
I love bread.
Yeah.
But I look around. It looks like I came too late. Like you have no bread left. Where's all your bread? Do you have any Maimonides bread here now?
I haven't got anything left in the shop. I have in the freezer. I can take one out and show you what it looks like.
I want to buy one.
You want to buy one? Fine.
What about challah?
What about challahs? Well, we make about 10 different kinds of challahs.
Do you have any left?
Yeah.
I want to buy a challah too.
I've got a sweet challah. I've got a whole wheat honey challah. I've got a whole wheat and raisin challah. I don't know if the apple, honey, and raisin is left. We make a 5-grain challah. It's a mixture of 5 different kinds of grains.
This is fabulous. We've
got challahs without sugar. We cater for everybody. And even the sweet challahs, he puts 10% of whole wheat flour in, which he grinds himself in that machine over there.
Show Steve the machine.
This is our machine. He buys the kernels, he puts it in here, and he grinds it himself. He makes the flour himself.
By the way,
he doesn't add preservatives. He doesn't whatever.
Can you make a living at this?
We're working very hard, and we're getting there.
I hope you do. You're doing something extraordinary, and
it's really something special.
Well, good for you.
And I want to tell you something else that we do. We also offer people gift baskets. We had somebody called me from America yesterday, And they ordered for friends in Ma'ale Adumim that they wanted to thank them for their hospitality, whatever. And we delivered a gift basket with
That's lovely.
and wine and cookies and whatever.
Are you online yet?
Yeah. We've got a website, and that's how most people order through us.
What's your website?
It's Saidels.com.
Saidels.com.
S-A-I.
S?
A-I-D-E-L-S.
Say it again.
S-A-I-D-E-L-S.com.
Okay. By the way, if somebody watching right now in America wants to order something from you, can they?
Sure.
You'll
They
ship
go
it?
onto the website, and they can either order directly through the website or they can call me.
This is one of the 10. You take credit card too?
Yeah.
Oh. This is one of the 10 top boutique bakeries in all of Eretz Yisrael, all of Israel. And the Saidels have put this together. Would you tell your husband, I'm sorry I missed him?
Yeah, I'm sure he's sorry that he missed you too.
Okay. But I want a Maimonides bread. Okay, I want a rye bread.
Okay, I'll give you that one.
And I want a challah. And we have to decide how many chalot I buy because it sounds like you have too many delicious ones
I
here.
don't know what I got left in the shop.
We'll find out.
We're gonna go have a look.
Okay.
Can I ask my son just get you to the Rambam bread?
Yes, you can. But first of all, I want you to say shalom to all the viewers who are watching all over America on Shalom TV.
Shalom from Saidel's Bakery to everybody at Shalom TV.
And Shabbat
Shabbat
Shalom.
Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. From Saidel's Bakery in Karnei Shomron.
Over here on the right is the community's swimming pool, country club, with an all-season pool, the matnas, the JCC, the Jewish Community Center of the community, where they have drama activities, cultural activities, karate classes, ballet classes. There's a music school for students and adults that are here. Immediately next to it is the Golden Age Center, which services over 150 Golden Agers that live here and have activities here during the day, cultural activities, different lectures, things of that nature.
So, Eli, where are we now? What are we looking at?
Okay, we're standing here in the Karnei Shomron Mall, looking northward, looking north towards Haifa, really. Right here is the boundary of the community, some Arab-owned olive groves, and right beyond it is the main highway, which goes east-west from Kfar Saba, Ra'anana area, all the way across to Shechem. If we look a little bit to the left, we're looking westward towards the ocean, and if there wasn't such smog over Tel Aviv, we could see straight into the Mediterranean Sea from here. We're looking westward towards Kfar Saba, Ra'anana, Herzliya, Ramat HaSharon, which is about 25 kilometers from here. The village across the way is was a very friendly village, Kfar Lakif. Lots of people from here went shopping there before we had the mall here. Lots of the people from there worked here in various capacities in the stores that are here, in the businesses that are here, drivers for buses that were here. And like I said, unfortunately, after the Oslo Accords, it just couldn't continue. One of the fellows that did continue to work here, because he started working here in our local grocery store as a 15-year-old boy, and was so loyal to the employers of the grocery store that they felt that now as a 25-year-old married man, he could indeed continue. Unfortunately, he was threatened by radical Arabs in the village, told not to continue working for the Jews in Karnei Shomron. He continued to do so. He did insist on his ideology, which was coexistence. And one day he just did not show up to work again, and it turned out that he was murdered by radical elements in the village for continuing to cooperate with the Jews by working for them and making a living for him and his family.
What about the fence I see right here on the wall?
This fence here is a perimeter fence around Karnei Shomron, which was erected right after the unfortunate terror attack that took place here in the mall. Until then, the entire area was open. Jews and Arabs could go and come into the Yishuv just like any other community. And there was absolutely no problem. Unfortunately now, things have changed, and there's a fence around the entire Yishuv. There are security cameras 24/7. There are security patrols, and that allows everyone to continue their daily lives. We need a partner. We need a real, true partner that's going to come and say, we understand you guys are here to stay, and we want to live side by side with you. And that nobody here in Karnei Shomron, as you saw today, has a problem with. We're here in the middle of the Karnei Shomron Mall. It's a large commercial center for the entire community of 6,500 people. Full functional mall, anything, any services you could want, a bank, a nature store, a clothing store for women, a clothing store for children, Sarah Leah Kuznitz's flowers for Shabbat, all kinds of things for the homes. There's a pharmacy here, housewares. There's a pharmacy here, a Maccabi medical clinic with doctors and nurses here. Anything any person could really want. And right here in the center of the mall is the main hangout for the kids, which is the pizza shop, Pizza Bar, which is owned by Amnon, the proprietor here for many, many years. He founded the mall and the pizza shop. And this is where the kids, like in every other community, hang out, have a pizza, especially on a Saturday night, talk with each other, and have pizza. And this is where it happened on that terrible night where an Arab terrorist decided to really ruin the good relations that we had with other of our neighbors who were welcome here in the mall and welcome here to eat pizza here with us, and walked right into the community, which didn't have a fence around it at all. There was no need for a fence before Oslo, and walked right past the bank that we saw, came right in here, strapped to his body with 7 kilos of explosive and metal balls, and exploded themselves right here in the middle of these 7 tables that we see. As a result, unfortunately, 3 teenagers here from Ginot Shomron were killed. Many others were injured very badly. People still have trauma till this day, including Amnon, who was right here behind the counter serving pizza from the terrible occasion. And right here on the wall, as Amnon correctly points out, is the plaque in memory of the 3 youngsters, the 3 teenagers that were killed in this suicide bombing right here in our community. Karen Shatsky, Nechemia Amar, and Rachel Teller. It was on February 16th, 2002, on Saturday night, and the phrase that was chosen to be put here on this plaque is taken from Zechariah, the prophet, where it says that the Hebrew, "Rechavot ha'ir yimal'u yiladim v'yiladot mishachakim berchovoteha." That Zechariah, the prophet, says that despite the tragedies that have occurred to the Jewish people in the days of the prophet and the prophecy that he saw, besides the setbacks that the Jewish people have experienced, that children will still come to fill the streets of Israel, playing and enjoying in the homeland.
Well, that was more than 10 years ago.
That's correct. It was in 2002.
Okay. If I come on a Saturday night, are kids here now?
Absolutely. You couldn't find a seat. You couldn't find a seat here, even if you paid for one.
There is something wonderful about that, isn't it? Something transcending in the fact that despite this tragedy, and by the way, it is a horrific tragedy, and you said Amnon has never gotten over it, really.
That's correct.
At the same time, kids come here, and they come here, I would guess, with sort of just a buoyancy of heart. And they continue to live, and you continue to live here. And this is a statement, is it not?
Absolutely, Mark. I mean, I remember the next morning, early Sunday morning, having to wake up my 7-year-old child and to tell her that something terrible happened last night. She was asleep already when it happened. And tell her that her beloved babysitter, Karen Shatsky, was one of the children, one of the teenagers that was killed here in the mall. And, of course, after crying and talking, and she said, "I never want to go back to the mall again." And after a while, we talked about it, and we spoke with all the children. The children had groups together and said, well, who are we going to let win this? Are we going to decide that this is our home, that this is where we belong, and we're going to stay here? Or are we going to let the terrorists decide that we don't belong here, and they're going to scare us? And this was the decision that we as parents made, all the parents in the community. I can't think of a single family that left the community at all because of what happened here. They realized it could happen in Jerusalem, could happen in Tel Aviv, and it could happen in Netanya the same way that it did over and over again.
You understand it can also happen in Boston. And, you know, on a very beautiful summer day when Boston was running its marathon, a couple of really deranged kids set off bombs at the end of the marathon. In America, it was such a really a unique event. It's not something we live with. But it made America, for one moment, understand a little bit of what Europe and Israel has dealt with terrorism. Right. And I said to myself, maybe we will be more sensitive to the way in which peoples try to protect their families, their children, their grandchildren, and that we will be more understanding of what Israelis try to do simply to protect their children, and at the same time be all the more almost in awe of how you and your daughter and your wife and the people we met at the bakery are all living, Amnon as well, who's a lovely, lovely man. All of you have been able to recognize it's a piece of life, but only a small piece of life. And it doesn't seem to prevent you from enjoying, loving, living, and continue to express really a commitment to the world you're building here together.
Absolutely, Mark. And like I said before, this is our home, and the same way in your home you like to walk around in your bare feet or in your stocking feet, however you like to walk around inside your own home, no matter who comes to the door, that's the way that's what they're going to see. In our home, if we feel this is our home and that this is our land, that this is Zu Artseinu, that this is really our land, and this is what we convey to our children and to our grandchildren, and this is what we convey outward toward the press and towards the American people, and our Arab neighbors will also realize that we're here to stay, and if they want to come speak with us, make peace with us, we'll be more than glad. Our arms are open. All we need is a partner, and we welcome them.
Eli, you're a delight, and I thank
you very much, Mark.
I thank you so much for spending time with us.
Thank you very much for coming, and I invite you and the whole crew to come on Yom Ha'atzmaut for a beautiful barbecue here in the backyard.
We'll take you up on that.
Absolutely.
Okay. As always, I invite you to be in touch with me with any thoughts or comments you may have. Please email me, write me, post on our Facebook wall, tweet me, ask any questions at all. And if you want to be in touch with Eli Knoller yourself, you can do so. Just email me, and I will forward your emails on to him. As you can see, he is one of the lovely, lovely human beings, Jews, who lives here in Eretz Yisrael, the state of Israel, on the West Bank. Eli, kol tuv v'hatzlacha. I wish you all the very best. We'll see you.
Thanks for coming to UW Shomron today.
Thank you. Until the next time, I'm Mark Golub. Be well, my friends.
We would be pleased to send a complimentary DVD of this program to anyone who wishes to support Shalom TV with a tax-deductible gift of $36, double chai or more, to the nonprofit organization Jewish Education in Media. Simply visit the Shalom TV website homepage and click on the Donate button to make a donation by PayPal or your credit card. And please indicate the program for which you would like a DVD. Or you can send your tax-deductible check made out to GEM, Post Office Box 180, Riverdale Station, Bronx, New York, 10471. And again, please remember to indicate which program you would like to receive on DVD with our compliments. And we thank you for your kind support.